Hello and welcome to the Friday night stream of the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. It is somehow Friday again, despite having bugger all to do thanks to the plague, which appears to be about to get worse yet again. It's almost as if there's some sort of correlation between finding out and fucking around. That each time that there's this fucking around, there's a finding out afterwards, and I'm beginning to think somebody ought to look into whether maybe fucking around is possibly causative for finding out. Oh, well. Anyway, somehow we've managed to make it through another week, and here we are again. So, let's play some Rapid. Just test. Okay, Restream is forwarding my chat messages. That does not always happen, so I'd like to make entirely certain about it. And Rapid 10 minutes and get that. Chat window where I can see it. Okay, we'll play in black. Let's do a little bit of Pierce action. Okay, fairly standard move so far. Let's get our fianchetto and get ready to castle. Have a glass of water, why not? Maybe pick up this pawn. You know, when you start running out of Greek letters for your variants, that's probably a sign that you're not doing a very good job of keeping the thing under wraps. Just a little piece of homespun advice. Okay. Just kind of got to keep this keep this knight right here, otherwise the the B2 pawn becomes available. Let's see, what's... okay, so if the... what plays knight e5, then... oh, interesting. What's the point of this move? I don't see one, but I can threaten mate. Or not. Oh, okay. That doesn't really work. Because I can just take the pawn, so what's the plan here? Okay. Guess we'll just take this bishop and trade light squared bishops, and now we're threatening the queen again, although actually it's not much of a threat because the queen can just take it. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the idea here is. Well, you can just... okay, that's what I was expecting. Yeah. Let's see exactly how this attack is meant to come off. Okay, I mean, that's not great, but... I don't know if that's sufficient compensation, but... no, the knight here is defended by the bishop. The rook is defended by the knight. And this d5 square is defended by that pawn, so... not seeing a whole lot of promise for this attack. I'm not seeing a huge amount of promise for mine yet either, to be clear. Okay. Interesting. Okay, time to double up that rook, I think. Okay. Oh, Microsoft recommends editor. I'm glad that they got around to recommending a program that has only been standard for, what, like 30 years now? I mean, there might be people who haven't heard of it. 그처럼 정을 달아요 내 삶을 빛내준 그대 Oh wow, I'm 4 minutes up on the clock on top of everything else. Okay. Come on, take with the night. Okay, let's pin that rook. Ah, hell. Yeah, that was right. That is an example of the correlation between fucking around and finding out. Yeah, that was obviously, mate. And that's good timing. I think we're going to move over to Xanderhole. Pause that. Only 15 minutes to go. We may actually finish it tonight. I'm going to back this up just a little bit, though.
This is the hypothetical we've been working with the whole time. You keep trying to add on weird...
Oh, okay. Yes, that's right. We'd left off with Xanderhole coming up with a completely ridiculous hypothetical that completely begs the question that is at the heart of this debate. See, the issue for the whole time has been that Jesse, who's calling in and has been in our chat past few times, has raised the obvious issue of how do you actually know for sure that somebody who claims to be an ex-Nazi actually is X, because that isn't guaranteed. For example, there are people like Xanderhole on the planet who definitely aren't as X as they claim to be, because you can just see it sort of exuding out of them every time they start to go ad lib. But so, in the midst of all this, when that is the crux of the entire issue under dispute, Xanderhole insists on a hypothetical where one of the key assumptions is that you know for a fact that this person is definitely no longer a fascist. Which is just totally irrelevant, because that's just not the realistic situation that you have. It just isn't. The situation is always, is this person for real? Or have they really been accountable for their actions? Have they really fully questioned all their fucked up ideology? But in this bullshit hypothetical, we're supposed to just assume that we can just know all that for a fact. We can see inside their heart or something. So that's where we are.
Weird caveats, like they just say that they're not a Nazi, but let's take this example. Someone used to be a Nazi. Someone used to be a Nazi or an alt-righter. Okay? They realize these opinions are wrong. They are not a Nazi or an alt-righter now. They're progressive. They join a progressive Discord server.
And what's really interesting, the whole way that he phrases this, he's not coming at this from the... Hello, United fanboy. Who? Gay? You? Me? Xanderhole? This is a very puzzling message to be sending in. What's the context? And okay, moving on.
A person of color in that Discord server or in that community broadly. It could be
So what's interesting is when I interrupted myself there a second. Because what's interesting is every time he comes up with these hypotheticals, he is very specifically coming at it, not from the perspective of leftists who are having to decide how to react, what to make of somebody who shows up in their spaces and says, yeah, used to be a Nazi, I'm better now. And they have to decide what to make of them. This is very clearly, he's narrating this from the perspective of the hopefully ex-fascist in this hypothetical, which just is also very telling. He is not seeing this, so to speak, from the point of view of people who have to decide what to make of somebody like this. He is very much coming from the perspective of somebody who identifies very heavily more as an ex-Nazi than as a leftist with, that sort of background that they've, been reformed or whatever.
Be Discord, it could be anything, any social space. And that person of color and that ex-Nazi, back when that ex-Nazi was a Nazi, had a bad interaction. That ex-Nazi, back then, called that person the N-word or something, or harassed them, or did some shit like that. But now they're better now. They don't do that.
Wait, okay, so they're better now, they don't do that anymore. So, yeah, that's an interesting... So, it's not that they've actually tried to, make amends or shown any kind of remorse or done anything to reach out to the person who is in this space, who they have hurt during their time as a fascist, and actually try to find out how to make this right to them, if that's even possible. No, they just kind of announced they've had this, bloody... internal conversion, and supposedly we're supposed to just act like that's enough, which really it isn't.
Sure, even assaulted them, sure, doesn't matter.
It kind of matters.
Anywhere ranging there. And now, that person, that ex-Nazi, is not a Nazi anymore. They're all better now. They're great. And now they're both in the same social space, no?
Yeah, and that is the crux of it. Yeah, you can't actually be fucking sure. Yeah, knowing for sure is the crux of the issue. If you knew for sure that this person really was better, they had done whatever it was that was needed in order to really convince people that this was not, that they were a different person, that they were on the right side of things, then the whole issue changes. And which is why these hypotheticals are just so totally irrelevant to the discussion.
I'm telling you, in this hypothetical, stop trying to add caveats, in this hypothetical, this ex-Nazi, who is fine now, is not a danger to anybody, doesn't have any bad beliefs anymore, they're cool, they join the social space, and that person of color who's had an interaction with them, not feel comfortable with them being there. You believe that...
And see, notice how, trivializing his description there is. Does not feel comfortable with him being there. Maybe this person who has actually been actively harmed by this ex-Nazi is actually a little bit traumatized by their presence. Maybe the experience they had was seriously traumatic, and it actually triggers them to be in the same room with this person, since they can't trust them. And the fact that the word trust does not even enter the discussion at any point for Xanderhole really kind of tells you everything you need to know. Really, so all you got to see is gay? I mean, that's not exactly information-rich there.
I want is that person of color to either get over it or leave. What do you think the alternative to that is?
Yeah, see... Each time, this has been a criticism from Jesse all along, that the idea is that the person who is made uncomfortable, who is perhaps re-traumatized by the presence of an allegedly former Nazi in a leftist space, should be the one to just fuck off if they can't deal with it, if they don't want it, if they're not comfortable with it. And that's fucked up. And he acts like there's any other alternative would just be a nightmare. It's like, what's the other alternative? What else are you gonna do? It's like, okay, well, you could tell the fucking Nazi to leave, or if the person who they hurt is amenable to it, see about whether there's a way to make amends, whether there's a way to patch it up, if they are for real. But that is very much up to the injured party, as far as I'm concerned.
That's what you want.
You said multiple times that's what you think I want. You said multiple times. Please answer.
Yeah, and he said okay, and now he's right once again trying to deny this or downplay it. But I mean, he has over this very, very long and very repetitive discussion repeatedly said that that's what he thinks is the appropriate way to deal with it. to just turn these places into just safe spaces for anyone who claims, any Nazi who claims to have had some kind of an awakening.
No,
What is the alternative?
Okay. You might not be saying that. You might not be saying that, and you might.
But
not
he
be
is.
saying that, but that's how it's perceived to other to other
Yeah, because he's fucking saying that.
Perceived it as like fucking 5 minutes ago when you said exactly that to my face. Are you
Maybe
trolling?
I misspoke, but no, I'm not trolling. I'm really trying to help you not look bad.
Yeah, and he really is. That is actually an entirely accurate characterization. He's been trying to find some way to give Xanderhole some way to come into to present his views as somehow compatible with the way most people who have actually been targeted by fascists, whose experience with fascists does not include having been one, actually feel about the situation. And each time he's given this opportunity to just look like a normal mammal on this issue, he decides to like show off his fucking proboscis.
Everybody in the chat is I promise you, I don't know if you believe that you're
Who
doing
cares
well in
about
this
your
debate.
chat? It doesn't matter
but,
about
like,
those people. They are.
Yeah, I mean his chat is fucked up.
You are not
Nothing,
looking
so it
good.
doesn't matter.
You are
Doesn't
not
matter.
looking good, dude. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to end this on like a positive
help me
note,
what?
on an
Trying to help
amicable
me
note.
what?
Yeah, an amicable note, having acknowledged absolutely none of the criticisms, having shown absolutely no learning curve, continuing to be totally disingenuous, but he's doing him a favor by giving him a bullshit hypothetical all over again. Yeah.
All you have to do is answer my question. What is the alternative?
The alternative, I mean, and that isn't actually a hard question. It should not be all that hard to say. Yeah, the ex-Nazi can fuck off. Like, if you are somebody who has done harm to somebody in a space and has abused the trust of everybody in that space, and you've not done anything to make amends, that's not in the hypothetical. And if we're going to take this thing this literally, where we pretend we can read this guy's mind and we know for a fact that they've had this conversion or whatever, then we can also take it as literally as to say that there's been no making of amends, any kind of restorative justice or accountability or anything like that. And yeah, so it's totally, I would have absolutely no problem telling that person they're going to have to go.
You cut out. Can you talk again?
I said, hello? Sorry, I'm here.
What
hear me?
is? Yes, I just need you to answer
Okay.
this question. What is the alternative?
You know what? This is what I've said before. I don't exactly know the alternative. What I'm trying to say is, this is how you're perceived. There's somewhere in the middle that needs.
Yeah, okay, and that's a... See, personally, I wouldn't pull that punch, although I can understand in these kinds of contexts, yeah, it can get to a point where you don't necessarily want to say something like that. But, I mean, the fundamental issue still remains, even if, I mean, it's an honest thing to say, if you can't think of an alternative, to say you can't think of an alternative. That doesn't change the fact that the problem is there. That what Xanderhole is proposing is an utterly problematic approach that essentially is designed to allow fascist takeovers of leftist spaces.
To be done, and I'm not saying I have all the answers, man. I'm not trying to like come on here and I know everything.
And why
I'm
are you
trying to say how
criticizing
you're
my
perceived
belief
by
on what
people.
should happen in this scenario?
Wait, okay, so the idea is that if you don't claim to have all the answers, you're not allowed to point out when somebody's answer is fucked up? Like, I'm not a molecular biologist, but I still think I am fully qualified to say that shooting up fucking bleach is probably not a good treatment for COVID-19. I mean, I don't think I need to be able to write an entire dissertation on why that is not a very good idea with citations and lab results and all the other shit in order to point out when something that is just such a manifestly bad idea. This is such bad faith.
Because this is the scenario that you brought up. You are the one who brought up the whole,
I didn't bring up that scenario.
No, you are the one who kept on bringing up the hypothetical of a person of color who isn't comfortable in a social space.
Yeah. Okay.
With somebody who's an ex-Nazi. You were the one who brought up that hypothetical in the first place.
Yes, he brought up that hypothetical, not this special bullshit hypothetical where we can see within the person's heart and we know for a fact that they're X. That is Xanderhole's original content right there.
I know, but I never told you have to do something different. I'm just saying how you are and what you're doing, it looks bad.
It does. It really does.
What? People of color.
No, it doesn't. There are people of color. Most of my audience, like straight white cis males, are a minority in my audience.
Oh, I'd love to see a citation for that one. I mean, and I'd like to see a breakdown that includes hate watching.
Okay, that's not all the people in the world, though.
That's not all the people in the world. I can't account for all the people in the world. Those
Okay.
that I'm
He can barely account for himself.
I know,
in my
but I know a
videos,
lot more
when I
people that
talk
would be
about
like
this,
the other way. So
yeah, guess what?
I
There are
know
a lot
a
of
lot more
people that
people that
don't
do
like
that.
me for plenty of fucking reasons.
Including the fact that you don't really seem to have actually grown at all since declaring yourself an ex-fascist.
And any excuse to say some bad shit about me. Trust me, I'm an internet figure. That's just what fucking happens. The people that I was
Especially, yeah, that happens. But when you're also just an asshole on the internet, it happens even more.
in my video and in my clips were those that are saying, like what I read off those screenshots earlier, those tweet responses. People saying that once a Nazi, always a Nazi. There is no redeeming. If you were able to be racist once in your life, that means you are inherently a bad person. There's no going back from that. Is essentially original sin.
Yeah, and this is okay. And Jesse, the caller here, can be held responsible for those random tweets based on what moral logic here? I mean, we're already saying that you can't hold ex-Nazis responsible for their own behavior, but somebody who criticizes Xanderhole's extremely fashion-friendly approach to managing a social space is required to be held accountable for some random tweets from some people they don't even know? That seems a little bit fucked up.
Couldn't you try to be nicer to those people and bring them back to being a normal leftist? Because obviously they're like being shitheads. Yes.
I would love to bring
shouldn't you be the bigger person? Shouldn't Xanderhole be the bigger person and try to be like, hey guys, I'm gonna be nice about this and stuff, and not tell them to go kill themselves, not tell them to never talk to the left again.
People sending death threats to that girl are I will absolutely make jokes being like, shove your head in a blender in Minecraft. I'll absolutely make that joke about.
But you don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, his loyalty really is not to leftists. It's not to people. In moments like this, you can really tell. He does not feel any instinctive loyalty towards leftists or towards people who've been harmed by fascists, like what he claims to be formerly, and I think that actually he's still got one foot in it, even if he's not in it organizationally. He's creating fasc-friendly spaces on the fringes of the left, just through this fucking YouTube channel. The person that he feels that he should get, that he feels entitled to get really abusive in defending is somebody who just says, I used to be a Nazi, but now I'm better, tee-hee. This is where his loyalty is. This is his instinctive. This is who we will jump to the defense of.
But you.
Okay, man.
Oh, hello.
Hey, guess what? You're the perfect example. You are.
Oh shit, you're right. Okay. I'm actually hello, by the way. Nice to see you, and not Destiny, though I can understand. Yeah, you're confusing them. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how happy he would be to be confused with Destiny, Xanderhole. But yeah. I can kind of see where you get that asshole with facial hair, and really, really shitty takes. Yeah, I see where you're going where you get that. Okay, I'm gonna back this up a little bit since the audio is apparently shite.
Weird caveats, like they just say that they're not a Nazi, but let's take this example.
Oh, I didn't mean to back it up all the way.
Someone used to be a Nazi.
Needs to be done, and I'm not saying I have all the answers.
How's this
I'm
audio?
Not trying to, like, come
Oh,
out
don't
here
worry
and
about
know
it.
everything.
Then why are
I'm
you
trying to see how
criticizing
you're
my
perceived
belief
by
on what
people.
should happen in this scenario? Because this is the scenario.
Because your belief on what should happen in this scenario is fucked up. Your belief on what should happen in this scenario turns leftist spaces into fash-friendly zones, where any fascist who claims to have seen the light can just rock up, and anyone who's uncomfortable with that has to leave. I mean, you don't have to have figured it all out to know that that's bad.
That you brought up. You are the one who brought up the whole,
I didn't bring up that scenario.
No,
Well,
you're the
yeah,
one
that
who
did.
kept on bringing up the hypothetical of a person of color who isn't comfortable in a social space with somebody who's an ex-Nazi. You were the one who brought up that hypothetical in the first place.
I know, but I wasn't.
Yeah, and it was, which is true, and Xanderhole's innovation to that hypothetical was this idea of this omniscience where we know for a fact. We can see inside this ex-Nazi's head, and we know for a fact that they're on the right side of things now. We just know it. We don't need any convincing. We can see it for an absolute fact. We can read their chakras or something like that. I don't know. But, yeah.
I never told you have to do something different. I'm just saying how you are and what you're doing, it looks bad.
In fact, it sucks.
I had no.
Who does it look
I
bad
don't know
to?
what.
Like, anyone who has any leftist social space that they care about at all and doesn't want it to end up being some sort of haven for any fascist who realizes that all they have to do is claim to be X, and they're suddenly the only people with with an irrevocable welcome.
People of color.
No,
Or
it doesn't.
gay,
There are people of color. Most of my audience, like straight white cis males, are a minority in my audience.
Citation needed.
Okay.
Is this sounding better,
That's
by
not
the
all
way?
the people in the world, though.
That's not all the people in the world. I can't account for all the people in the world. Those that I'm
Okay.
condemning
I know,
in my
but I know a
videos,
lot more
when I
people that
talk
would be,
about
like,
this,
the other way. So
yeah, guess what?
I
There are a
know
lot of
more
people that
that
don't
do
like
that.
me for plenty of fucking reasons and would find any excuse
Yeah,
to say
'cause you're
some
an
bad shit
asshole.
about me. Trust me, I'm an internet figure. That's just what fucking happens. The people that I was condemning
trying to help
in my video and in my clips were those that are saying, like what I read off those screenshots earlier, those tweet responses, people saying that once a Nazi, always a Nazi. There is no redeeming. If you were able to be racist once in your life, that means
Okay,
you were
this is... yeah, see, what he's doing here, after insisting that not as someone who claims to be an ex-Nazi cannot be held accountable for their own shit, if they claim that they're no longer a Nazi, just like that. He's now holding Jesse here accountable for tweets from random people on the internet who he doesn't even know.
inherently a bad person. There's no going back from that. Is essentially original sin.
shouldn't you try to be nicer to those people and bring them back to being a normal leftist? Because obviously,
Yeah! Yeah, well, I mean, of course, Xanderhole would have to become a leftist first, but leaving aside, yeah, why isn't he interested in bringing those people back in the fold? Why is it he, like, rolls out the red carpet for anyone who's recently sharpied over a swastika tattoo? But any leftist who says anything hurtful to somebody who claims to be a former Nazi, whether truthfully or not, has to repent for all time.
Obviously, they're like being shitheads. Yes,
I would love
but
to bring
shouldn't you be the bigger? Shouldn't Vanderhall be the bigger person and try to be like, hey guys, I'm gonna be nice about this and stuff, and not tell them to go kill themselves, not tell them to never talk to the left again.
People sending death threats to that girl are I will absolutely make jokes being like, shove your head in a blender in Minecraft.
Which is so interesting. I mean, when he really feels fiercely loyal, when he shows that kind of fierce reflexive loyalty, it's to somebody who has Nazi on their CV.
Absolutely make that joke about.
But you don't know
But you didn't make those jokes. Hey, guess what? Here's the perfect example. You are the perfect example. You didn't come in, or I haven't seen you on Twitter sending death threats to that girl. So guess what? I brought you on.
I never had Twitter in my life.
That's fine. You had a disagreement. You had a disagreement, and I brought you on to talk about it. I would bring every single one of those people. Everybody that agrees with you, everybody who disagrees with accepting ex-Nazis to the left, I would bring all of them on to debate.
You were like,
that is not a favor. He thinks that he's doing a favor. That's just an opportunity to be completely frustrated by an hour and a half of gaslighting and bad faith arguments.
You were like going after. I mean, you were going in on those people, and you don't know exactly what those people have been through. Some of those
yeah, good point. He really doesn't. He doesn't give a shit either.
I don't care what they've been through if I see them doing bad shit.
You don't.
Oh, that's interesting. If they do that, it doesn't matter. I mean, what happened? He was talking about restorative justice about an hour earlier on this video, which is in our time measurement system like a month ago, I think. Yeah, he was on about restorative justice, which in his mind meant you didn't have to do any kind of justice and you didn't have to restore anything. You just had to say, I'm better now, and everybody had to just accept that no matter what it was that you'd done. No restoring of trust, none of that stuff. But when it comes to anything like this, when it comes to telling someone who claims to be an ex-Nazi to get fucked, all of a sudden that's unforgivable. This is so mask off.
I don't care.
If I'm going to condemn someone for doing bad shit, yeah.
It's a stupid tweet that probably wasn't that smart to tweet like that, and like maybe they were just angry.
I'm sorry, a teenager tweeted something that was poorly worded that they didn't.
Okay, see, and remember, in the various hypotheticals that we've been dealing with, this ex-Nazi alternatively was harassing, shouting racial slurs, or physically assaulting somebody, a leftist in this leftist social space hypothetical. And none of that excited him in the least. He didn't show any sign that it would piss him off if somebody like that were to show up, in the space, that sort of thing would have any real emotional reaction for him. But if you say some shit to somebody who claims that they are no longer a Nazi, then it's on. He's gonna fuck you up.
Didn't expect was going to go viral and would garner them to gain tens of thousands of people shit-talking them and thousands of people sending them death threats and insulting them. I'm sorry. I didn't expect that. I'm sorry that teenager didn't expect that. That teenager who'd been groomed into Nazism by an abusive boyfriend and abusive family.
I'm talking about the leftists.
Oh, we only have his word on this, and his word hasn't been all that reliable.
Making really bad decisions by, saying that about the supposed ex-Nazi. I don't think it's good. I'm not saying those people.
Why do you have a problem with me insulting them or trying? Like, I'm gonna be honest here.
Because you shouldn't be telling them to kill themselves. And if you really want to balance their left, you really honestly need to be if you're gonna cup the right winger's balls, you got to cup the left winger's balls. You know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't. That's an interesting way of putting it. I wouldn't have thought of it that way. I don't really need to have an image of Xanderhole with anybody's balls at the moment, whether they've got a swastika or they're like painted red and black or whatever. Didn't really need Xanderhole with the balls, but yes, that is a fair point. He's totally not even-handed about this. He is so heavily biased in favor of anyone who has Nazi in their CV.
No, so
when have I ever cupped the right winger's balls?
In this whole fucking conversation, dude, where somebody who is physically assaulted by a so-called ex-Nazi who rocks up on the social space that they rely on, where their comrades are, where they spend their time, where they have their connections, and where they do whatever work that they do politically. They're supposed to leave if they're not comfortable with the Nazi who physically assaulted them being present. If that Nazi says, "Yeah, I'm better," I'd never really given any thought to what sort of things would fall under the analogy of ball cupping, but I'd say that's like the not just a ball cup. That's like that's a ball holy grail right there.
My entire channel covering right wingers, I tear apart content creators so that their audience sees,
especially leftist ones and especially ones of color.
Me destroy their fucking demagogues, and they move more towards me.
What about this? I mean, to you, as somebody that claims they're a Nazi, is subhuman garbage. But the second they say, "I'm not a Nazi anymore," you're like,
there it is again. There it is again, just the saying they're not a Nazi anymore.
Well, yes, there it is again, because that's the fucking reality, you dickhead. That's the reality we're all dealing with. He really does not want to dwell on what it would take for an ex-Nazi to make amends, and I think that's probably because he doesn't want to discuss standards that he might have to hold himself to if he's at all consistent, which he doesn't seem to be, except when it comes to standing Nazis. Well, ex-Nazis.
You've said that before. You said they say they're not a Nazi, they're not a Nazi anymore. You did say that casually, like people can just say that they're okay and just be in these spaces.
We're back in the loop, guys.
Yeah, we're back in it because it's never been addressed. It is the crux of the fucking issue. See, he calls it the loop. It is, in fact, the core of the disagreement here, and he really does not want to deal with it at all.
We've done another circle. It's like a race car track. I literally said 50 times you can't prove a negative if someone said,
yeah, and it was bullshit each one of those 50 times. It isn't about proving a negative. And the thing, what it is about is whether this person actually has demonstrated that their loyalties have changed, whether they have done anything to make amends, whether they have done anything to earn the trust of the people in those spaces, especially any of them they've personally harmed. This isn't, I mean, he tries to reduce this, oh, you can't prove a negative. Isn't that cute? Well, first of all, you could actually prove that particular negative because you could prove it through a positive. If somebody's views are incompatible with being a Nazi, and those views can be attested in some way, so you know that they're not full of shit when they claim that they're their views, then you can say fairly reasonably that that person has shown that they're not a fucking Nazi. This is a test that Xanderhole would not necessarily pass. Oh, what was wrong with your phone clock?
Says I'm not a Nazi and there's no evidence they're a Nazi, then they're probably not a Nazi. That's how inductive reasoning works. It's not just that they say they're not a Nazi, it's that there is no evidence whatsoever that they are still a Nazi.
Yeah, except there's no evidence whatsoever that they've changed. See, yeah, this shifting of the burden of the proof in favor of any Nazi who claims not to have been a Nazi, and acting as if this is somehow outlandish, when there is a long history of Nazis claiming to have gotten better are claiming to have seen some kind of light, and now they're sidling up to left spaces, and they've got all sorts of ideas, and they want to bring some of their friends into those spaces too, and wow, wait a second, a couple of weeks later, suddenly they're talking about the Jews.
Yeah, I don't know, man. When you can claim you're a Nazi and it's pretty bad. When you are just a little edgelord that dipped its toe into the
Holy
rabbit
shit,
hole or
here we
whatever.
go trying to sugarcoat. Why are you trying to
I'm not.
sugarcoat the bad shit that I believe? You are. I was
You said that though.
literally.
You conflate both of them. You say that they're both just as welcome.
I
You know,
literally.
Yeah, and they really, I mean, the idea that there's absolutely no difference in degree between somebody who's a bit of an asshole, even a bit of a Nazi asshole online, dips their toe into it a little bit, and somebody who is hardcore on or offline and actually it does some very specific harm to people on a very personal level that is not equivalent, that is not something that 100,000 other people did at the same time, you know. There is a difference. There's a difference in the amount of trust that they're gonna have to regain. This is so fucking basic. Yeah, I wouldn't let him anywhere near. Oh, see, that's Xanderhole needs a beating from some very large women. Shit, we need that stream. I want that stream. I will do the blow by blow commentary on that stream. Set that shit up. I want this. Having put up with him for this long, voluntarily, I should note, but still, God, he just makes me want to throttle him in Minecraft. 'Cause he's such a fucking asshole in real life.
like we're supposed to be
Hello,
just
Phoenix
both of them the
Rising,
same.
by the way.
I was literally like in Discord servers making jokes about 1350 and posting fucking black crime statistics and shit like that. I believe horrible
but you
shit.
even say that. Let's
You kind of still do.
not talk about you. Let's just talk about.
Why did you
people
bring
that
up
were
my
mildly-
beliefs? Why you brought up my beliefs and I responded to them and now you're
Because your beliefs suck.
trying to
Good
pivot
example.
again.
I thought you were a good example of it, but then you told me that it was actually way worse than it. Because I didn't perceive that from your first video that you were that bad from your ARC video. I didn't perceive that from there, that you were actually as bad as you're saying now. So that's my bad, and I don't want to keep making that comparison because you weren't. But what about these kids that are that are like liberal conservatives that kind of do racist shit, don't really understand they're doing racist shit, but it just
My
kind of dumb shit.
content can appeal everywhere from edgy
I'm not saying that,
teenagers.
Yeah, well, everywhere from like edgy teenagers to straight up fascists who are looking for a way to infiltrate the left.
Who have liberal positions, but
Okay.
they like to say edgy
No, but
slurs
that's my
sometimes,
point.
and full-on Nazis. My content, I try to broaden.
They're
the
also better
horizon
drawn.
To reach all of these people. You don't
No,
get them
that's
all.
good.
You don't.
Yeah, he wants to reach a whole spectrum of people who suck. I mean, when you're only making content to specifically appeal to people who suck, then maybe you're just making suck content. Maybe you're not winning people. If you're tailoring your fucking content to people who are some kind of right-wingers to outright Nazis, then maybe you're not actually a leftist content creator trying to convert people. You're just a fucking grifter doing videos for fash.
Get them all,
I'm just saying-
but sometimes you get some, and every single person you bring over from the right to the left is a win, because not only is that a future voter, that's most likely someone who isn't going to go around harassing like marginalized people online, and perhaps even someone who won't one day go and shoot up a fucking synagogue or a shopping mart or set a fucking mosque on fire.
Yeah, and to Xanderhole, let's just remember, that person, after they do that, if they could walk away with the fucking smell of petrol still on their hands, walk into the nearest leftist social space, and say, yeah, I was the guy who just did that fucking synagogue in the mosque next door to it. Yeah, but I'm better now. And then you have to fucking accept them. And anyone who says, yeah, the fuck that, they have to leave. That is the Xanderhole way of doing things.
Or I don't know, one of those things. That every single person that I bring from being
anywhere from a Nazi to like an edgy anti-SJW type over to
You're
being a
bringing that.
progressive
That's not what I'm
leftist
saying.
is
I'm
a
saying
win.
you're conflating.
Yeah, fuck
I'm
them.
saying you're conflating. You're
I
like,
haven't conflated these.
when you say-
I literally
you're like,
I
if you're an
distinguish
edge- you
between
said this.
everything in
Listen.
this fucking category every time I talk about these kinds of topics. Okay.
Yeah, except in terms of their welcomeness in leftist spaces. You think that they're all equally welcome. It doesn't really matter what they did, how bad it is. Yeah, I mean, see, I think there is a certain particularly very grifty segment of the left, particularly the shitball left, the turd guy left, whatever it is, dirtbag left. That's what I'm thinking of. The pieces of shit, the ones who decided to make that their brand, who are already kind of just signaling that they're fascist adjacent and just gradually just sort of edging their way over there, with every fucking piece of content they create. And of course, it's really, really good. A duet of TikTok. Okay, I do you have a link to that? I'm curious what that even. I'm not sure what a duet of a TikTok is, but I'm very interested in seeing this thing. But I mean, it's great. It's a really great content grift, and it's got that wonderful redemption arc in there, and everybody loves a good redemption arc. I mean, I love them. And you can use it to show that you've got all sorts of insights and stuff. It's great grifting material. Of course, there's also the Brianna Joy Gray approach, where, yeah, that is exactly right. That's what Xanderhole is saying. I mean, Brianna Joy Gray had was it Talia in Kiev? What's her name? On there. And starts talking about how important it is to build coalitions with Nazis over healthcare or some shit. Because, you know, if anyone has great ideas about what doctors should be doing, it's Nazis. Yes, that's her. Talia Levine. And so, and then Talia says, well, I don't think that, yeah, Chicken Kiev. That's it. That's the exact one. And she says something like, I don't think it's really worth all this energy to try to reform Nazis. And Brianna Joy Gray then starts having a go at her like she's being dishonest because Brianna Joy Gray had not said anything about reforming the Nazis before forming coalitions with them. Yeah, she just wanted to have coalitions with Nazis, not like ex-Nazis or anything like that. And it's like what the fuck are these people? What the fuck even is this? What kind of bullshit is being oozed into the culture?
Okay.
You're not even understanding what I'm saying.
If I'm talking about someone
You're not even getting it.
if I'm talking about the fans of someone like Geeks and Gamers or of the Quartering, I talk about them very differently, or what they believe very differently than I would from someone who's like a fan of John Doyle. You damn well know it if you've watched any of my content, which you claim to have.
Yeah, and maybe that's true, and maybe it isn't. The content of his that I've seen hasn't dealt with that specific issue, but what's very clear is that he does not see any difference in terms of whether they have any business being in leftist spaces and what they'd have to do in order to make amends in order to win the trust of leftists. It's just, God, it's such a useful grift, because what he's managed to do is find a position that should give him absolutely no credibility. Anyone who falls for Nazi shit has demonstrated the worst political judgment ever. That is the bottom of the moral and political judgment curve. That's actually kind of dipping below zero. And yet he's managed to take having that in his CV and use that as a platform from which to lecture leftists. Okay, I will have to do exactly that.
Okay, yes,
I'll
and
have to
that's
get
not
TikTok,
my point.
too.
My point is that you are saying that there's a spectrum of right-wingers, right? There's barely right, there's, liberal conservative, there's edgelords, blah, blah, blah. You're saying that the the lightest of the light is just as welcome, which is fine, as a hardcore Nazi. And
Yes, exactly.
we're just supposed to believe them the same, and we're supposed to just be like, oh, you're totally fine, because you're like, oh, right-wingers or Nazis, like you're like saying them in a sentence like they were pretty much the same thing. And I'm like, I think he's conflating and getting these wildly different type of people mixed.
See, I don't necessarily buy that they're necessarily a different type of people, but in terms of the degree to which they have abused humanity's trust, the degree to which people will quite reasonably be skeptical of their motives and everything about them, is going to be wildly different if it's somebody who once, like, watched Rush Limbaugh and thought it was good, versus somebody who was at the fucking Charlottesville pogrom.
Up, and that's where I was like, are you not, like, understanding what you're saying? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to go back in the video and I could show you, like, where you were like, I don't think you think it, but it just comes off this way.
I think he thinks it. I mean, his entire body language, every time... See, if I talk about the kind of harm fascists do at any kind of length, you will tell that this is actually stuff that is hard for me to talk about, because it requires me to think about horrible shit, and it's traumatic. He, on the other hand, you talk about this stuff, it is so perfunctory, and he is clearly bored by it. The idea that Nazis do harm just by being Nazis, but then in addition to that, they go on and do even more fucking harm, and then they fuck up, they lose people's trust as a result, and need to be the ones who are responsible for regaining it. This is just a total yawn for him.
It seems like that, so I don't know. Hello?
You're unbelievably frustrating.
Yeah, he keeps on getting back to the crux of the argument when you're trying so desperately to avoid it. That really must be annoying. It would be nice to have somebody who forgets what the issue is, because then you could just kind of continue with this bullshit.
We're having a debate here, man. Remember, I am on your side. I'm just trying to have you see.
I don't think you are. I actually.
And that isn't a bad thing. Nobody should be on Xanderhole's side.
Totally am. I'm not like with you with this, but if you talk about comrade and like with you, I'm with you. I'm just saying you are not seeing how bad you look. And that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to actually help you out, bro.
I promise you I don't look bad.
I know you
yeah, you look bad. The narrator says you look bad. I'm watching this, you look really fucking bad. I had a general sense before watching this that you were kind of dodgy and that I didn't really trust you, and that actually, before watching this and the other video I already had my doubts, because every time Xanderhole's name came up, it was in a really, really dodgy context. But after this, I absolutely have no sympathy for him whatsoever. He clearly deserves the worst he gets.
People who I look bad to, the people who I look bad to are people who probably have always disliked me.
The mean boomer who was born in 1979. I mean, he thinks that everybody who remembers Breakfast Club is a boomer.
And who would probably never be open to anything that I say.
Nope. That's bullshit, and you're like, no.
In fact, the people that I look bad to are probably people that, honestly,
you. I'm not trying to pick on you.
The people that I look bad to, if I'm being completely honest, from a purely utilitarian no, the people that I look bad to from purely utilitarian or consequential perspective are people who I probably don't care about reaching anyway, because they're probably already left-leaning, and my goal is to reach people who aren't already.
Oh, well, you see, the thing is, if you're making content that is going to reach people on the right, and it makes you look bad to the left, that suggests that maybe it's just right-wing content, though. See, if you wanted to make content that was specifically about converting Fash, about dealing with their bullshit assumptions, and actually, honestly, the more I think about this, the more pointless it sounds. But it would be fucking leftist content. A leftist might say, yeah, this is kind of basic. I've heard this a million times. I could give this speech. But they would at the very least say, this person is from the same moral universe as me. Whereas I have to say, listening to the Xanderhole is not from my moral universe, and I would be very keen to keep my moral universe free of him.
Left-leaning to bring them to the left. My channel is not a circle jerk.
I don't think so, man.
To preach to the
yes,
choir
it is
to
a
people who
fucking
already
circle
agree
jerk.
with me.
I mean, I'm sorry. No, it isn't. I mean, he explained his thing was ball cupping. Yeah, ball cupping Nazis.
I'm not interested in that. I'm not trying to look for a little
Well,
lefty
I'm
safe
not saying
space
that.
where everyone
I'm
agrees.
not saying that.
Yeah, see, there's one of those discursive tells. If somebody trivializes the idea of a safe space, not a critique of its efficacy or the limits to which we can actually define the parameters for a safe space, given that we're in an extremely toxic society and that we all bring skid marks of that into every space we go into, no matter how much we try to eliminate those sorts of things that are encouraged in the society that are actually kind of horrible. I mean, you can have that kind of a when you sneer at the idea of a space being a space that is specifically and intentionally created to be free of abusive and oppressive behavior. When you sneer at that, that's an immediate warning sign.
I'm trying to reach people who don't already agree with my opinions.
You just need to make them feel welcome. You need to make them feel welcome, not preach to them and not be like, blah,
it's
blah,
my
blah.
fucking channel. They don't feel welcome here because they don't like me, then that's fine.
Sure, but then,
Well, yeah, because you suck.
people go and they say this about Vosh too. Like,
Yeah, because Vosh sucks too. Vosh is Xanderhole's macro me. Vosh is like Xanderhole after a visit to the hair hat shop. Okay. I mean, it's the exact same edgelord debate bro bullshit, where they claim to have some sort of a radical perspective, but every time it actually gets down to a fundamental issue, it's either piss-weak liberalism, or it's something that is so fucked up that you kind of wish it was piss-weak liberalism. That is their brand.
actually, one of my buddies is like, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of
that
leftists
guy
that are
doesn't-
allergic to pragmatism.
that-
There are a
that's
lot
what
of
they
leftists
hate.
that are
That's what they
allergic
hate
to
about
winning.
leftists.
There are lots of leftists.
Oh god, yeah, you're allergic to winning. Yes, see, because doing what Xanderfash is doing here, that's winning apparently. Creating echo chambers full of right-wing suckholes that are so toxic that even he admits that leftists probably will not particularly want to partake of them. Yeah, that's winning, apparently. I mean, against who is, of course, the question.
We're just allergic to winning. I understand.
No,
Allergic to winning.
Fucking thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
Trash.
this is the sort of shit, like, Democrats will say. When somebody's like, actually, the fact that you're the candidate there is okay
That's
with
trash.
genocide in Palestine and India, and, fucking Kashmir, that's kind of a deal breaker because genocide's a bad thing, and then some liberal talking head prick will go, yeah, you lefties, you're just allergic to winning. I mean, with your fucking purity tests and stuff, genocide, so, whoever thought that was gonna be a deal breaker? It's like, I mean, this is such bullshit. It's so.
I mean, maybe that could happen, and maybe that's like the Democrats in power. But
Maybe I'm allergic
real
to
leftists
shit.
want to win.
How about that,
so
Xanderhole?
That's
Yeah, maybe
bullshit.
they should start acting
anyway.
like it. If they start acting like it, I would be. I'd
Yeah, but
really like that.
we're not going to, the right, how they, coax people in and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just trying to figure out what kind of harm was Biden going to do if we didn't get him the White House? Like, what kind of fucked up shit was he going to do if he lost that election that was, like, the less harmful situation to put him in? I mean, what, was he going to become some sort of weird white supremacist kaiju and walk all over New York City or something like that? And we had to appease him by giving him the White House? You know, like, what was the harm that he was going to do that... Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the difference between the harm reduction when we talk about it in that original context is that it actually often gets to the point of practically eliminating harm, because it eliminates the things that actually make it so unsafe in the first place a lot of the time. I mean, there's some things that are just unsafe, full stop. I mean, but I mean, a lot of things, they're unsafe because of the context in which you're using them. Yeah, exactly. I mean, even on a very literal level, somebody who is a big fan of the war on drugs, to the extent of not even finding some way, not even seeing the way clear to deciding to backpedal on the enforcement of those rules about denying people housing, federally subsidized housing, if they ever smoked weed. I mean, that is totally within his power to just say, yeah, we're not going to worry about that. That's fucked up. There are so many other priorities, like whether this housing is actually safe and inhabitable. He could do that. There's no his response for why he's continuing to enforce that and make people homeless in the middle of this disaster because they once smoked weed. It's just, oh, it's the law. Well, I mean, letting refugees into the country and treating them humanely until they've had a chance to have a fair asylum proceeding, that's also the law, but he's not fucking doing that. Yeah, I'd love to, I mean, I don't know enough about his background to be able to say this for a fact, but he just does not seem like somebody who has ever actually been involved in any kind of leftist space, any kind of activist space that he did not personally control.
That is pretty sick, and they're just, they're gross. It's like,
Yeah, because they lie, but the left, generally speaking, doesn't tend to lie about our opinions.
It doesn't lie and aren't two-faced. That's one of the things about the left too, is it's rare. I mean, it can be true, totally.
There is
right,
lying on the left. Don't get me wrong, there is, but
well, yeah, I mean, any place that Xanderhole goes, there's going to be some lying.
The basically has a monopoly for the most part on spreading lies and misinformation about politics.
Right. They're like the creepy guy trying to get you in the van, man. That's what the right is.
Yeah, they are.
And that's how
yeah, and that's kind of how Xanderhole acts.
Feel like how they
I want to be the fucking the sports center, the YMCA around the corner that can be a refuge for kids not to get fucking kidnapped and diddled by the creepy guy in the van.
Yeah, I actually, he's the creepy guy at the fucking YMCA. He's the creepy ass YMCA lifeguard who uses the fact that a kid cusses at the pool as an excuse to corner them in the toilets. That's the kind of vibe I get from Xanderhole.
That's good. Hey man, I'm not saying you shouldn't let these people into your space. I'm just saying it's more complicated than just telling the other people they got to either deal with it or bounce, So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing this.
Xanderhole is so good at just gaslighting people that this guy, with his totally reasonable point, his completely reasonable, just basic common sense ass point about trust and about who to believe when you're talking about when Nazis are in the mix, he's like actually coming back and apologizing for it.
I'm just saying how you're perceived by other people of color, some people of color, and how you're just kind of, purging a leftist to get a right. you know. So
I have
Yes.
no power to purge
Like-
leftists. I have no power over the broader lefty
Well,
community. I have power.
I mean,
over...
Yeah, nobody said you had power over the broader left community. It seemed, for what, as far as I can tell, his reputation on the broader left community is so shit that I think that actually the only power he has is sort of negative, where if he embraces somebody, a lot of people will immediately sort of step back from that person. But that's, I mean, again, this is so dishonest. Because what we're talking about is how he handles, we're talking about left social spaces, and we're using the example of the social spaces he controls. And in those social spaces, he certainly has power, and as a clout-chasing YouTube grifter, he also has a certain amount of social capital, a certain amount of a bully pulpit such as it is. I mean, a small one to be sure, but still a hell of a lot bigger than mine, for example. Oh. Is this okay? This Phoenix Rising. I think you commented something about this on the last of these streams, and I've been trying to figure out why it is not showing up. YouTube occasionally does this with comments, and I still don't understand it. But okay, is this response? Is this on YouTube or is this on TikTok? I'd be interested in seeing it. So, yeah.
If you say
like-
not just you, but if it's a thing on the left when people are doing what you do, like say if it was a big thing, it would be like, you know, a lot more leftists wouldn't feel as welcome in those spaces because it was kind of getting overrun with these so-called ex-Nazis, you know.
Well, yes, damn it. This is such a basic point that he's pretending not to understand, and I just don't buy that he doesn't understand this. That what you get when you have a policy that says, yeah, if any leftist is in any way uncomfortable with ex-Nazis in the space, they are the ones who should leave. Well, what you get is spaces full of fucking Nazis.
So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that you need to like.
It
think
is
about
bad.
this a little bit harder, you know, like. And I don't know
I've
the
thought
answer.
You're gonna
about
have
it
to
very
check out your
hard.
channel.
I would
Like-
give you that exact same advice.
I don't think so. I don't think so, man. I don't think you're really thinking about other people's feelings and through, you know. So
I'll tell
Oh,
you-
I love Pig Puncher offers a load of edgy swill. Okay, I like that title. I'm gonna check that out tonight, I think.
one thing. This is my job, so I put a lot of thought into it. Okay,
Yeah, that's not something you should brag about. If you put a lot of thought into it and this is the outcome, then the quality of then maybe the quality is not getting as much attention as quantity of thought. Because the thoughts suck, the outcome sucks, your content sucks, you are a bad person and you have a shitty channel, Xanderhole. So, yeah, I don't think you want to brag about how much effort you get into creating these fucking digital turds every week
even
or
when I'm
whatever.
not streaming,
not
and I'm
right here,
doing
not right
work.
here. You're a smart kid. You're really good. I think you're good for the left, and I'm not trying to like.
Well, see, and I don't think that. And I happen to, from what Jesse has said subsequently, he came to change his mind about thinking that Xanderhole was good for the left after this exchange, which is the sort of thing this exchange could do to you. I mean, I didn't come into this with any respect at all for Xanderhole. I have less respect for him now. So I could totally see somebody who actually had some respect for him, sort of rated him a bit, going through this, listening to him be so fucking evasive and so willing to bend over backwards for anyone who says that they're no longer a Nazi, whether they are no longer or not. Yeah, I could see somebody totally losing respect for him.
I'm trying to help you more than hurt you. So don't think I'm trying to hurt you. So
I just
Anyway,
wish you would have been a bit more. It feels like you were being extremely dishonest. And
Oh, fuck you. Fuck you, Xanderhole. You've been totally evasive and dishonest and gaslighting this whole thing, and look at the little grin on his face there. He clearly does not believe what he's saying.
I'm not, though. I'm just trying to have you see where you're screwed up.
Yes.
You know, and like you are, and it's bad. It's like, I don't know.
Oh, fucking hell. Okay, so Xanderhole has a poll going in the bottom right corner. Can you see that? Okay, shit. How do I improve the crop so you can see that? Let me see. How's this look? Can you see it now? No. Damn it. Okay, I'm not going to fuck with the crop because every time that happens, bad things happen. I do not trust myself with the crop. But just for the record, and I'll put a screenshot in here when I clip this for content. He's got a poll in the bottom left corner directed at chat. What is he, chat? 1, troll, 2, delusional, 3, psyop. Yeah, this is real good faith arguing there. Some wonderful conspiratorial bullshit. The idea that somebody might actually have legit concerns there. I mean, the fact that he isn't even willing to consider that as a possibility, or at the very least acknowledge it as a possibility, shows that the minute he acknowledges how legit these concerns really are, his entire argument just begins to look, disgusting as it is.
I guess I can't. Maybe I'll try to make a reaction video and get to the points on your little video and go over them or something like that, where I'm like, see this, but I don't know. I guess you're just not understanding what I'm trying to tell you.
I know the
Maybe
exact.
that's my fault.
I know.
I think he understands perfectly well. It isn't actually that complicated a point that's being made here. I think he's just full of shit.
I know how you feel. I know how you feel.
So.
Oh,
but
thank
anyway,
you,
man. I do got to get
glad
going.
to see you here,
maybe
Jesse.
We'll talk about this again. Maybe I can, instead of just being triggered and being like, I gotta call this guy. Maybe I can think about some more things and, call you back and be like,
Again, look at this fucking guy. I mean, this is a fucking serious conversation. This is a serious issue. If you're actually serious about reforming Nazis and trying to re-radicalize them as comrades, then this is a serious discussion that requires serious answers. And he clearly does not take it the least bit seriously. No, this whole thing is a fucking joke for him. It's just a grift.
Maybe you will see that, maybe you need to switch your strategy just a hair,
Yeah, maybe don't suck up to Nazis quite so much. Maybe only cup the balls with one hand, to use the metaphor that apparently we've decided to go with. Just a one-handed cup, not don't give them both. Make one of them cold.
And I don't know what the switch is, but I'm not trying to tell you need to do something. I'm just saying that, like,
I am. I'll tell him he needs to do something. Xanderhole, here's what you need to do. You need to fuck off.
If you could, I guess, think what I think, you would be going, oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna approach these leftists that are being assholes a little bit different, and I don't know. Anyway.
Okay. Have a good one,
that's
all right?
it, buddy. All right, bud. Have a good one.
See ya.
Oh, wow. And that is the end of this long-ass argument with between Jesse, who's in the chat right there. Nice to see you again, Jesse. And Xanderhole, about whether a one-handed ball cup is enough for Nazis or whether there should be two. Or, maybe we should just give them our entire leftist space and just let them just paint swastikas all over it or whatever. Yeah, so, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. We are reaching the end. This was perfectly timed in that regard. But I will be back tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern Time. I look forward to seeing you all then. And we will have another maddening video at that point to go through. And if you, let me just say, it was something. That was something. That I was not expecting that to come out, and yes. But if any of you have suggestions for videos that you'd like to see me dissect and bowl bouncers at in my way, see, I don't dunk on things because my sport is cricket. I bowl bouncers. If you look up bowling bouncers, look up Michael Holding bouncer. And you will see what bowling bouncers refers to in cricket, and you will see why it is an apt alternative to dunking, which I was never any good at anyway. But, yeah, so if you got any videos that you'd like to see me dissect like this, put them in the comments. Put them in the comments, or send them to me on Twitter. My Twitter, for anyone who doesn't know, is Anarchaid, Gwylan Archaid, which is Welsh for anarchist seagull. Gwylan, seagull. Anarchaid is anarchism, or anarchistic. And so just send them. I'm always up for suggestions. If you've got something you'd like me to do, then just send it on Twitter, put it in a comment, anything like that. And with that, it is now 1 a.m., and so I'm going to bid you all good night, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Have a very good night. Thank you so much for joining me.